so glad you're joining me here today for yoga. We are going to be working on the floor today, tractioning out our spine. And if you need a blanket, like a rolled up blanket, or maybe a block or a pillow, that would be useful today. And let's get started. We're going to make our way all the way down onto the floor. So we'll start off by going into a lunge, and then slowly bending our knee, reaching down, dropping the back knee down, and then coming all the way to seated. So leaning over to one side and making our way all the way to seated. If it feels good for you to stay in a chair, feel free to do so. You can do this practice in a chair as well. So we'll have our legs either crossed, or if it feels more comfortable with legs extended, you can do that. Or you can take a blanket or a pillow and prop yourself up so that your hips are higher than your knees. I'm going to be sitting in a cross-legged position with my hands resting on my knees, and we're just going to focus on tuning in for a moment. So gently close the eyes. Start to invite your breath in through the nose and out the nose if it's comfortable. Begin to lengthen the inhale and the exhale. And notice the rise and fall of your chest as you expand the breath, dropping into this moment on your mat. And just relax the shoulders away from the ears. Notice your connection, your seat connecting to the earth, and lift your low belly up. Start to lengthen the spine through the crown of the head. Tuck your chin just slightly, lengthen through the back of the neck, and take one more nice inhale here. Big exhale out the mouth now. Gently open the eyes, relax your concentration. We're going to start with a gentle twist. So we'll take our left hand, place it onto our right knee, reach back behind us. Keep your face in alignment with your chest for now. And we're just going to do a gentle twist here. Reaching back, opening up the body. Head is in alignment with the heart. Ground down with your seat. Push down into your seat. Lift your low belly in and up. Your chest lifts up all the way up through the crown of the head. Lengthen through the spine. And then we'll release, come back to center. Let's try the other side. Take your right hand, bring it to your left knee. Reach back behind you. Your head is in alignment with your heart. And then again, ground down into your seat. Grow tall through the crown of the head. One more inhale here, and exhale, release, back to center. Let's take our left hand and place it on our shoulder, elbow points out, and then bring your right hand to the ground, and we're just gonna lean over. If you'd like, you can raise that elbow up towards the sky. Take a deep breath into your left side body, expand. Exhale here. One more inhale, nice long breath, and exhale, back to center, release the hand. Let's try the other side. So right hand to right shoulder, elbow points out, lift your belly in and up, and then exhale over to the side, elbow points up. Take a deep breath into your right side body this time. Inhale here, and exhale. One more breath, inhale, and exhale, release, back down. Let's take a moment, roll the shoulders back and down, gliding the shoulder blades down the back, open up the chest a couple more times here. Good. And this time we're going to work on opening up the neck. So when we lengthen the spine, it's not just our back, it's all the way up through the cervical spine. So we're going to be working with that whole linear connection. So let's take a moment here to place our fingertips out to the side, and then we'll take our head, tilt it over to the left side, left ear to left shoulder. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Good, opening up that whole left side. And then take a moment, tuck your chin in just slightly. You might feel a nice opening down the right side of your neck. If you want a little bit more sensation, you can flex that right hand, almost like your palm is pushing down to the earth. Take a few moments here. I feel a nice opening in my right palm, all the way up my arm into my right side of my neck. And then if you want a little bit different opening, take your chin and roll it towards your left shoulder, and you might feel the sensation moving towards the back of the neck. And then release your chin back to center, face comes back to center. Let's try the other side. Tilt your head over to the right this time. Very gentle, not a lot of effort, just relaxing the head over. Good, and then allow your chin to tuck in just slightly. If you want a little bit more sensation, this time flex that left hand up, palm pushes down, your arms pushing down away, very gently. Again, I feel it in the center of my left palm, all the way up through the side of my neck. If you want to move that sensation towards the back of the neck, keep the chin tucked, and then roll your chin more towards the right shoulder. And release back to center, face lifts up. Roll the shoulders back again, releasing any tension in the body. And we're going to take a few moments here, grab onto the knees, sit up nice and tall. So we're going to use our knees as leverage. Ground down with your seat, lift your low belly up to your ribs lift up to your chest lifts up through the crown of the head. Notice that length. We're going to continue to expand that length and traction out the spine even more throughout this practice. So keeping that sensation of lifting up, take a deep breath, roll the shoulders back, maybe the chin lifts, face lifts just a little bit, soft gaze, and release all the way down. Let's take it down onto our back. So we're going to lean over to one side and swing our legs around. If you're in a chair, you can just stay right where you are, but have your blanket or pillow handy. And we'll roll all the way down onto our side and then onto our back. Have your blanket, block, or pillow handy. Stay here for a moment. Arms are along your side, knees are bent, feet are flat. If you're sitting in a chair, same thing. Feet are flat. Scoot towards the front of the chair so that your tailbone is seated on the edge of the chair. Arms are along your side. And then from here, we're going to lift our hips about an inch or so off the mat. If you're sitting on a chair, you're going to ground down into your seat and just lift your belly, lengthen through the crown of the head. Here we lift our hips about an inch or so off the mat, and we're going to scoot our hips more towards our heels. If you're sitting in a chair, just stay right where you are and lengthen, and then slowly lower down. Good. So now we're feeling a little bit of traction in the spine. I'm going to take my blanket or block or pillow and bring it in between my knees. So if you're seated in a chair, you can do the same thing. Just bring that in there. And then give a little bit of a squeeze towards that blanket. So feel your inner thighs maybe rolling inwards just a little bit. Feel that. And then we're going to lift the hips again. If you're seated in a chair, stay where you are and just lift your belly up. Push into the feet, lift the hips, scoot your hips more towards your heels, and then slowly lower down. So noticing again that tractioning of the spine, so the spine is starting to lengthen a little bit. We'll take our feet nice and wide, the blanket in between the knees, and just kind of rock the hips from side to side, opening up the hips for a moment. And then from here, again, pushing down into the backs of the arms, lift the hips a few inches off the mat. If you're seated in a chair, lift your belly up towards your ribs up towards your crown of your head. Good, stay here for a moment, and then we're gonna bend the elbows, palms face each other, push into the backs of the arms, maybe lift in between the shoulder blades, the chest lifts up towards the sky. Move your hips more towards your heels, And then lengthen all the way down. Nice and slow. Relax the arms down. We'll put the blanket off to the side for a moment now that we're set up with a nice long spine. And then separate the feet out nice and wide. If you're seated in a chair, you can bring your feet out wide as well. We're going to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. So just rocking from side to side, giving your low back a little massage. Allowing your hips to open in this gentle twist. And then we'll allow both knees to fall to the left. If you're seated, bring your knees center, and then we're going to do a twist where we bring our right hand to our left knee and then reach back behind in the chair. And you can even look over the shoulder at this point. Relax your upper body. The shoulders are connected to the earth. Let your legs feel very heavy. If you're feeling any tension in your knees, you can walk your feet away from your body a little bit to bring a little bit more space, and even flex the feet, helping to support the knees. Let your low belly feel very heavy here. Take one more inhale into the space. And then exhale, soften. Let's bring the knees back to center, and we'll continue that windshield wiper. So now side to side again, allowing the low back to get a massage. If you're seated, you can do the same thing, just bringing the knees from side to side. And then we'll allow both knees to fall over to the right side this time. Legs are heavy, shoulders are connected with the earth. If you're seated in a chair, you can bring your knees to center and take your right arm behind, reaching towards the chair, the left hand on the right knee, and do a gentle twist, looking over the shoulder. Just relaxing your upper body, legs are softened. And then coming back to center. Plant the feet. You can bring the feet in a little bit closer to your body. If you're seated in a chair, sit up nice and tall on the edge of your seat. I'm going to plant my hands on the upper thighs, and I'm just going to do a gentle push away. So pushing down and up. So pushing in and up, feeling a little bit of that extension in the low back. I love the sensation of creating space in the low back. One more time, doing the same thing. If you're seated, just pushing down into the thighs as you lift up with your low belly. And relax here. Bring your feet out nice and wide to the edges of your mat. And then allow the knees to fall towards each other, relaxing the low back. And this is called constructive rest. So we're just releasing any tension. If you wake up in the morning and you're feeling a little stiff, this is the perfect way to start your day. You can even stay in bed and do this constructive rest position. So if you're seated, feet are planted nice and wide, and then we're bringing the knees in towards each other. Take a few breaths here. Inhale and exhale. And then point the knees back to center. We're going to hug the knees into the chest. So from here, if you're seated, you can grab onto the knee. And we're just going to rock the knees into the chest. If you're seated, you can bring one knee into the chest. Let's start with that right knee. And just give yourself a nice hug. And then we'll switch to the left knee. In and out, just giving yourself a nice squeeze in and out, connecting the rhythm of your movement with the rhythm of your breath. Good. And coming back to center, we'll roll all the way over onto our left side. So we're in the fetal position. Knees are tucked. If you need a blanket in between the knees, feel free to do so. If you need a cushion under your head, you can do that. If you're seated, you can just sit up nice and tall. And we're gonna do a gentle twist. So knees are stacked, one on top of the other. We're doing a twist for the low back this time. So our knees are stacked. We'll bring our hand to our hip and we're gonna start to roll the right shoulder open, the chest rolls open, coming to the back of the head. Try to keep your knees stacked as much as you can. If you're seated, you can take your right hand onto your left knee. And again, do that gentle twist, looking over the back shoulder, dropping the shoulders away from the ear. From here, it's not so much about the right shoulder blade connecting with the earth, it's about the legs being stacked. That's how we open up the low back. If you want, you can take your left hand out to the side and start to move your left shoulder blade more towards the left, getting into the twist a little bit more. The right shoulder feels very heavy, hand is on the hip. If it feels comfortable for your arm, you're welcome to reach that right arm out to the side. Rolling the shoulder open, palms face up. Head is up, or you can look right or left, whatever feels good for your neck today. We're going to be here for several more breaths, just allowing time to do its work, releasing to gravity. Let's start to focus on the breath. So from your right hip, all the way up through your right armpit, inhale. And then exhale, maybe allowing that right shoulder blade to drop more towards the earth. Take a deep inhale up through the right body. Exhale, maybe your right ribs drop more towards the earth. Inhale, expand from the right hip up through the right armpit. Exhale, wrap all your organs to the right. And just soften here for a moment. Legs are stacked. Scanning the body. Notice if you can release any tension and direct your breath into that space. Let's take one more inhale here. Exhale, bring your right hand back to the hip. And if you're seated in a chair, you can slowly unwind. If you're on the floor, you can stack the hands back on top of each other into that fetal position. Let's roll onto our backs one more time. If you're seated, come back to center. This time we're going to roll onto our right side into a fetal position. Again, using the blanket in between your knees or under your head if you'd like. And then bring your left hand to your left hip. Stack your knees one on top of the other. And then start to roll that left shoulder open. Come to the back of the head. If you're seated this time, right hand reaches back behind you, left hand on left knee. Lengthen through the crown of the head. Lift your low belly up. And again, we're going to use time to work with gravity. Start to invite your breath into the left side. From your left hip all the way up to your left armpit. Inhale, expand. And then exhale, drop your left shoulder maybe a little bit more towards the earth. Take your right hand if you'd like, bring it out to the right and scoot your right shoulder blade more towards that right side. Relax your body. Allowing your breath to fill into the space. Take a nice inhale from your left hip all the way up through your left armpit. Exhale, wrap the upper ribs and chest to the left. Inhale, expand. Exhale, wrap the low ribs to the left. One more breath. Inhale here. Exhale, wrap all your organs to the left. Then just take some time for a moment to settle in, scan the body, and just notice where you might be gripping or holding tension. Bring your breath into that space. And then we'll roll back over to our right side this time. If you're seated in a chair, come back to center. And then we'll roll all the way onto our back. Stay here for a moment. We're going to bring our feet nice and wide again. and then drop the knees towards center into that constructive rest pose. If you're seated, do the same thing, feet nice and wide, and then bring the knees back to center, releasing any tension in the low back. Point the knees back towards center, walk the feet underneath you, hug the knees into your chest. If you're seated, you can hug the right knee into your chest. And we're going to lengthen that left leg all the way down below us. If you're seated, your foot is planted, left foot is planted, right knee is in towards the chest. We're going to grab onto the back of the thigh. If you're seated, you can do the same thing. Flex that right foot and then push the thigh into the clasped hands. So pushing the thigh forward if you're laying down, down if you're seated. Flex that foot, arms are lengthened, the thigh is pushing into the hands. And then feel like your right hip is moving down and in more towards the right, more towards the left. And allow your right side to open up. Lengthen through that side. Right hip moving down towards left ankle. Creating a little bit of space. And then we can start to lengthen that leg up towards the sky. If you're seated, you can lengthen the leg out in front of you, holding on to the back of the thigh. Keep your knee bent as much as you need to. Rotate that ankle around in one direction. And then the other. Pause for a moment. And then from here, we're going to keep the right hand on the outer thigh. Same thing if you're seated. Bring your left hand down to your side. If you're seated, you can hold on to the left side of the chair. Point your toes and foot out towards the right and just allow that leg to fall all the way open to the right. If you're seated, support your outer thigh with your hand and allow the knee to fall open. I like to bring my right elbow all the way down onto the ground for support and just let my right leg relax in my hand. Notice your left hip, see if you can keep it grounded more towards the earth. And just take a few breaths, relaxing your leg in your hand, opening up that hip. And then bringing the leg back to center. And this time we're going to take that left hand, cross it to the inner part of our left thigh. Same thing if you're seated. You can take your right hand out to the side or grab onto the chair. And then just cross the body a little bit. So you might feel this right away. I like to feel it in my outer IT band that runs on the outside of my right leg. So go to where you feel sensation, not any discomfort. And take a few breaths there. Foot is flexed. Come back to center. We're going to lengthen the legs all the way down below. If you're seated, you can plant both feet. Close your eyes and just notice any differences from right to left. Maybe one leg feels a little longer or heavier or more grounded. Just noticing. And then we'll hug the left knee into the chest. If you're seated, same thing. Give yourself a nice hug with that left leg. Stay here for a moment. Grab onto the back of the thigh, clasp your hands, flex your foot. Your left foot's flexed. Push the left thigh into the hands, lengthen into the arms. And then noticing your left hip this time, bring the left hip down and in towards your right ankle. Same thing, pushing down into the hands if you're seated. Growing tall in your seat or on the floor. And just creating some space in the low back, tractioning out the spine. Take one more breath here. And then we can begin to lengthen that leg. Keep your knee bent as much as you need to. If you're seated, same thing. Lengthen the leg out front. Start to rotate that ankle around in a circle. One direction. And then the other. And come back to center. And then we'll keep our left hand on the outer thigh, bring our right hand out to the side. If you're seated, grab onto the right side of the chair. Allow your leg to fall open to the left. Bring your elbow all the way down. Really relax that leg in the hand. If you're seated, relax your leg. Really let go, opening up the leg to the side. A little bit of an inner thigh stretch, opening up the hip. And then notice your right hip. Make sure it's grounded towards the earth. Chest is up to the sky. And let's bring the leg back to center. Bring your right hand to the inner part of your left leg. This time you can bring your left hand out to the side and just cross the center line just a little bit until you feel a little sensation in your IT band, which is the outer edge of your left leg this time. So I don't have to go very far to feel that sensation. So just take it right to the edge and take a few breaths into that space. And bring it back to center. We're gonna lengthen both legs down below. If you are seated, you can do the same thing. Plant the feet, close the eyes, and pause for just a moment. Noticing any differences from right to left. And let's hug the knees into the chest. Grab one hand on each knee. If you're seated, let's start with the right knee only. You can plant your right hand on your right knee. And we're just gonna make circles with the knees in opposite directions, almost like you're rowing a boat with the knees. So drawing into the chest and then away from you. And a few more breaths like this. If you're seated, continue on the right side. And then we'll come back to center. And then we'll take it the opposite direction. You can plant your feet if you're seated and try the left leg this time. Rotating around, opening up the hips. And gently coming back to center, plant the feet. We'll bring the arms along our side, lift our hips one more time. If you're seated, grow tall in your length. Move your hips more towards your heels. Slowly lower down. And then lengthen the legs all the way down below. We're going to prepare for Shavasana. If you're seated, get into a comfortable seat. We're going to bring the arms along our side. If it feels good for your shoulders, you can have your palms face up, separating the feet from right to left. Gently close the eyes, and we'll take the next few breaths just to assimilate all the movement and beautiful energy that we created in this practice today. So just lengthening the inhale, and as we exhale, softening into the earth or into our seat. Few more breaths just like that. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, soften. One more breath here. And exhale. Hug the knees into the chest. Give yourself a nice hug. If you're seated, you can just hug yourself. Upper body hug. We'll roll over to one side and make our way all the way to seated. Plant your hands and push all the way up to seated. Ooh, the sun is rising in this beautiful day. I'm so happy that you're here with me. So in our seat, we're gonna work on some breath work to finish our practice. You can rest your hands on your knees or in your lap. Sit up nice and tall. Use that length that we created during this practice to create space to breathe better. Gently close the eyes, tuck your chin just slightly, lengthen through the back of the neck. And we're just gonna do a nice gentle breath. So we're gonna invite the breath from our low belly all the way up through the crown of the head on an inhale. And on an exhale, in reverse, going from the crown of the head all the way back down, empty out the belly. Inhale, lengthen through the nose if it feels comfortable to breathe, or the mouth. And then exhale, winding down all the way, emptying out the belly. Inhale, fill the belly, grow tall through the crown of the head, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears. And then exhale, softening the chest, releasing any stale energy in the low belly. A few more breaths just like that. Inhale through the crown of the head. And then exhale. And soften your concentration. Let's bring the hands to heart center in a prayer-like pose. Bow the mind to the heart and thank yourself for showing up today, for being present on your mat and nourishing yourself. Namaste. Wonderful. I'm so glad you joined me. Let's make our way all the way up to standing. We'll lean over to one side, sweep our legs around, and come to hands and knees. Bring one foot forward. Press into your opposite hand, curl your back toes and start to lift, scooting that foot up. Bring your hands to your thighs and rise all the way up to standing. I am so glad you joined me here today. I'm Kim. I'm in beautiful Los Cabos, Mexico, and I look forward to seeing you next time for yoga. See ya.